Hi everyone, this is Dr. Sarah Yu. Today, we have a great co-host Luis Poel here. We will talk about today about our great President Donald Trump, cabinet members. So today, our great co-host Poel will talk about more like longer than me today. He will going to talk a lot of. He said he had a lot of things to do, a lot of things to talk. So and then also this show, we will post in Dr. Sarah for U.S. Senator show, and you write you Vision TV show and Today's America and World Youth Show. So three places we will the posting. And hello, Mr. Powell, can you introduce yourself and go ahead to start?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Sarah. I'm Lewis Powell. I'm a campaign associate and friend and uh, confidant, I suppose, of Dr. Liu, and I'm always happy to appear on her program and talk about politics.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for supporting our campaign and other things we do together. So today I'm going to give question to you, okay? Then you can just share whatever you wanted to share, okay? First, we have several, the use coming, on the TV, currently president appoint most I think 10 people, right? 10 cabinet members. So tell me about what roles, president cabinet, why is they so important? Yeah.
Yeah, well, the cabinet, that's a term that comes from the Jacksonian era. Somebody had said that the men in the administration were like a kitchen cabinet, and that's where we get the term cabinet from. Um, yeah, the cabinet are the people who administer the government. The president is the overall executive head, but he needs ministers, as they say in Europe. Here we say administrators, um, to actually administer the affairs of state because he can't do it all. Now we have a big bloated government, so in recent years we've seen more and more of a need for people to manage these associations. But the big ones, of course, are the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, Health and Human
Mhm.
Services, which has gotten very important in recent years with all the attention paid to medicine and science and so forth. The Attorney General, which is always
Mhm.
important, that's the top cop in the country. Um, I could talk for an hour just about the Attorney General position. I'll get to some of
Mhm.
those points in just a moment. Linda McMahon, Secretary of Education. Now, the Department of Education is a controversial um, department. A lot of conservatives for years have been saying eliminate the Department of Education. It is not necessary. It is a cash cow. We're
Mhm.
not getting any positive results from having this educational, bureaucratic, so-called educational
Mhm.
behemoth. There's the FBI, the CIA. Those are very important. Um, Director of National Intelligence. That's another one. So, where do I start? Let's start with Attorney General.
Mhm.
The biggest Attorney General fight that
I
I ever.
think the Attorney General, his name is Pompeo, right? So
Well,
yeah.
the new Attorney General is a woman, Miss Pam Bondi.
Yeah,
Pam,
Pam Bondi, yeah, Pam Bondi, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Now, she is important because she was and is a Trump loyalist. She was out with him. She's from Florida. She was a prosecutor, had a big career there. And she was actually my number one pick for
Uh-huh.
Attorney General. And Trump, first of all, you remember, nominated Matt Gaetz to be Attorney General. I
Mhm.
thought that was a mistake, and a lot of other people did too.
Mhm.
Turns out he has a very, how do we say, colorful personal life. He
Mhm.
is known for being hot headed and for making dumb and sort of juvenile decisions. And it took just 2 or 3 days for Matt Gaetz' name to be withdrawn from consideration. So Pam Bondi was the replacement. I said yes. She was confirmed this
Mhm.
week, no problems. RFK, what was it last week, was confirmed as HHS secretary. He was a
Okay.
controversial pick because he has some controversial theories on things. They thought RFK was one of those who was going to have difficulty getting confirmed, but he came through. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. He comes from television. Many of us have been watching him for years on Fox News. He was another one we thought this guy might not get through, but he got through, and I believe President Trump was on the phones, working the phones on his behalf. Tulsi Gabbard, the former Democrat congressional representative from Hawaii, last week, I believe, was confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. She was another one that we were holding our breath about because a lot has been said about her in recent years. Hillary Clinton even said a few years ago that she thought that Tulsi Gabbard might be working for the Russians. I don't know where she got that. But anyway, people said she is not to be trusted with our national intelligence. But the U.S. Senate said they had no problem with that, and she was approved. Kash Patel was confirmed, I believe, a couple of days ago and sworn in. The Indian American career prosecutor. He has prosecuted drug cartels and murderers and so forth. And he is also, like Pam Bondi, a Trump loyalist. People said he should not be anywhere, Democrats said he should not be anywhere near the Department of Justice and the FBI. But he got confirmed, and he's now on the job, and he has promised not to continue the weaponization of the Department of Justice that we saw under Merrick Garland, Biden's Attorney General. So those are some of the highlights. Could I say one more thing about Attorney General?
Oh yes, you have time.
The Attorney General is very important. The Attorney General is very important because they decide who's going to get prosecuted for crimes. In recent years, the position of U.S. Attorney General has become a hot potato. The worst Attorney General fight I ever remember was when I was in college. That was 2001 under George W. Bush. Remember, Bush went in under a cloud of doubt because of the Florida recount. People said he was illegitimately elected. He only won by 500 votes in Florida after the Supreme Court intervened and saved him. Well, he picked John Ashcroft to be his Attorney General. And the Democrats said, we don't like John Ashcroft. He's a Christian. He's an extremist. He prays with people in his office. And they really gave him the third degree in the Senate confirmation. Ultimately, he ended up getting confirmation 60-40. So what was interesting is John Ashcroft was a senator. He knew many of the senators, yet so many of them turned on him when he got nominated for Attorney General. And the Democrats tried to portray him as an extremist, so-called Christian nationalist. It didn't work. But when you look back at that at the distance of 24 years, you can see now where everything was going. Everything was starting to get more politicized and more hate. The invective was becoming too much.
Yeah, I think overall, their cabinet members, they're like focused on economic growth and military strengths, foreign policies, and juridically packed or limited government approach. So I think now this Donald Trump cabinet member is similar, our Ronald Reagan cabinet members, Ronald Reagan had 1991 to 98. He had a large, top contributor, which is Donald Reagan's policies. There was, I think, the one George vice president that time is George H.W. Bush, right? So why I mention, Ronald Reagan cabinet member, because of there is one model we can think about, because already during campaign of President Donald Trump, his MAGA, Make America Great Again, is also one of the Ronald Reagan's, that time is he fighting same thing. So I think that's why, there at that time is same thing: economic growth, military strength, and foreign policy, juridical important impact or limited government approach. Those all, very important. So I think that time the cabinet member was vice president was George H.W. Bush, right? So the Bush was a very strong campaign, anti-drug campaign, which is a key contribution Ronald Reagan's economic policy through anti-drug campaign, as well as he's very helping foreign policy effort, related to Soviet Union. So, later very successful Reagan president continue his policy like each members cabinet members we have vice president now, JD Vance. So as well as each different their like position, right? So Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense, Attorney General. You just mentioned Attorney General and other Secretary Treasurer, Secretary Interior, Secretary Education, Secretary Housing, Urban, and the National Secretary Advisor. So as well as the White House chief of staffs. So I think this all like people they are everything is I just want to talk today. They are what they need to focus on, I think they should focus on transparency and accountability for government because nowadays many medias and many you go YouTube and everywhere is medias effective. So transparency and accountability government that our citizens very clearly communication sponsor their decision making build trust in government as well as their expert very important because their expert experience. That's why our great president Donald Trump they are like choosing 10 cabinet level people because cabinet members should have a strong knowledge and experience there represent field to effectively managing their department, right? So the other things I think is represent in public interest. So each policy should reflect the voice and read of a variety of social group and region to ensure fairness or inclusive, right? So I think that is very important as well as the integrated active leadership. So the public was, public is public. Public want to, corruption-free administration leader who demonstrate honest and upholding ethics standard. So as well as effective crisis management, now we have inflation and immigration problem. So all the ability to, their ability to respond quickly, efficiently, energy engaging all those we have problem, all the immigration, economic growth, and energy, all this, I think the emergency matter, how they are effectively respond through, especially this economic downturn right now. So that's very important. I think that if the fact important. So I think we can go to we can. I think that is very important, right? So how does then how does President Trump elected the cabinet members? What do you think? Why they got elected?
Why did he choose them?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me back up first of all and mention a few things. Yeah, you're correct about Trump's "Make America Great Again" mantra coming from Reagan. "Make America Great Again" comes word for word from a speech Ronald Reagan gave in, I believe it was the early '80s. He said, "We can make America great again," and Trump took that, lifted it, and made it his key and core mantra. I forgot to mention Rubio, Secretary of State. You mentioned Secretary of State, very important position. I believe he was maybe the first major cabinet member to get a nominee to get confirmed. Rubio, of course, was already in the Senate, so it was easier for him. He had an easier time than poor old John Ashcroft as a senator trying to get confirmed for Attorney General under Bush. But Rubio immediately went to Panama and is trying to mend some fences there and also decrease the Chinese influence. What's interesting, Rubio was very anti-Trump in 2015. You remember he and Trump sparred numerous times, and Trump called him Little Marco. But like with Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio has buried the hatchet with Trump, and they have gone on to have a very good relationship. Why did Trump choose the people he did? Well, I think he was looking for people who are people of strong convictions, strong personalities, who are pro-Trump, no milquetoast Republicans, Mitch McConnell types, maybe Lindsey Graham types. Those people are Washington swamp creatures who, sometimes they vote for the Trump agenda, sometimes they don't. Mitch McConnell this year has been very disappointing. He voted against Pete Hegseth, I believe. He voted with the Democrats on several of the major nominees. So I don't know what's going on with Mitch McConnell, but I think that by nominating the people he has, Trump is trying to get newer, younger MAGA blood into the party and decrease the ever-present influence of the milquetoast Republicans who are rhinos, Republican in name only, who half the time you can't tell what they're going to do, who they're going to vote with, and they were responsible, I believe, for stymieing and derailing Trump's agenda in the first term. And I think this time Trump is saying we are going to get true believers into these key positions. Yeah, I wanted to say one more thing because we're talking a lot about Bush and Reagan and George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush. The cabinet positions today, as I mentioned, are very politicized. And a lot of this hateful politicization and partisanship has its roots, I believe, in the Reagan era. Reagan was I think the first president of our time, the modern era, to really be mistreated by the media and by Democrats and by academics, portrayed as an old dodderhead, portrayed on another day as an extremist, a religious nut who believed in the end of days and Armageddon and all that. He was none of those things. He was a very bright person. People said he was a movie actor and he made dumb movies like Bedtime for Buffalo, but he also made some really great ones like Santa Fe Trail with Errol Flynn, Raymond Massey, and Olivia de Havilland. He was a good actor, and not all the movies he made were bad. Some of them are remembered today as classics. But when Reagan was president, not only did they vilify him and treat him as a fool or an extremist, but they started to treat his nominees for key positions unfairly. And you may remember the flap over Robert Bork, who was not Reagan nominated to the Supreme Court. And until Reagan, it was more or less a courtesy for the Senate to vote to approve a president's judicial nominees. You could say the same thing for cabinet nominees. And Ted Kennedy took everybody by surprise when he got up on the Senate floor and made a speech portraying Robert Bork as a right-wing extremist. That caught on. The media immediately picked up Kennedy's theory and put it out in the public. They brought Bork in for his confirmation, treated him very badly, portrayed him as an extremist, and his nomination to the Supreme Court failed. And then, what was it, 5 or 6 years later, George H.W. Bush nominated Clarence Thomas, the first Black conservative, to the Supreme Court. And the Democrats hauled him into the Senate and accused him of sexual harassment and being a pervert and being inappropriate and so forth. So, and then after that, 2001 was John Ashcroft, which I talked about. And then they tried to smear Alito and John Roberts for the Supreme Court. Then they did smear Kavanaugh. They tried to get him with sexual harassment. And now last month was Pete Hegseth. They said he was a womanizer and a drunk and had a bad temper or something to that effect. So they always come up with something. But a lot of this hyper-partisanship that we're talking about today and meanness and vituperation have their roots in the 80s and the Reagan era. That's what I wanted to say. This is something that's been going on for a few decades now.
Oh yeah, that's a great your comment to the older history about Reagan, Ronald Reagan season. I think the Ronald Reagan student, when I study in Harvard Kennedy School, we are studying about like Ronald Reagan cabinet, as well as we study about what is cabinet members they do, what their authority had. I think when the time I was studying, I was very impressed. Those Secretary of Treasury at that time with the Ronald Reagan, the James Baker, 1985 to I think 1988. James Baker, he's a very good following Ronald Reagan's policy, which is that time is Ronald Reagan's a big contribution is helping business, right? So my policy is helping business. That's why I'm study Ronald Reagan's policy a lot. So those cabinet, like 10 cabinet, during those 10 cabinet, I think the most impressed Secretary of Treasuries, which is key, their capacity or their contribution is, a tax cut and the deregulation and economic growth. That time is a really serious Republican president, our great president, Ronald Reagan, his cabinet members, leader James Baker, together they really had a economic recovery act and then tax reform act. So 1991 they had economic recovery act, as well as 1986 they have a tax reform act. This is a significant low tax rate. So I think that is now is our great president Donald Trump. He needed to really fight for the business owner, right? So his policy like come from Ronald Reagan's fighting similar many business policies, especially. I think that is very we can think about it to this is our I think the Trump administration cabinet members, Secretary of Treasury is Scott, right? Scott Bessent. I think he need to focus on his role is managing national finance and including economic policy and lot of facial measures. We have economic problem right now, inflation. I think he will be very good to helping, like Ronald Reagan effective, like James Baker, same thing, like I think Scott, he's very good influence, to fight for that. I think the basic his aim, implemental economic strategy, focus on tax reform as well as addressing inflation. And I think his incentive investment background, I think he can contribution for that. So, everywhere, I think one another, Ronald Reagan students, I am really very Defense Secretary of Defense Casper Weinberger. That time is Casper Weinberger is he's very good. That time is a very massive military. He built up very good and include the strategic defense initiation like SDI. So he made policies, the strategic defense initiative like SDI. It was like Star Wars, Star Wars like a defense system. He built as well as he advocate increased defense spending with the precious Soviet Union at that time. I think our defense is the most important national defense, right? So I think this administration also should focus on, immigration as well as many defense projects like what Ronald Reagan season they did. I think that those two factors I just want to talk to most important right now we need to fight for, yeah. And I wanted to go over another question. What authority cabinet members has over their department? Like you can just share what authority.
Yeah, the general answer to that question is they make day-to-day managerial and policy decisions. Now, they do have the authority to hire and fire, but they're not supposed to make any decision that the president disagrees with because they could end up getting fired too. They work for the president ultimately. So I think a president who's paying attention and who's being smart about cabinet nominees would nominate someone to the post who is in line with his or her, with the president's own values and ideology. It's never a good idea to nominate someone to a cabinet who's going to embarrass the president or make a bad situation worse or fail to achieve administrative objectives. There's a very famous example for my generation. That was Jocelyn Elders, who was nominated by President Clinton to the post of not Attorney General, Surgeon General. Do you remember what happened with her?
Clinton, yes, that's
Clinton fired her because she said that she thought basically all forms of human sexual acts should be taught in schools. I won't put any more of a finer point on it than that. And Clinton fired her because he said that she had made a number of statements he had disagreed with. So cabinet officials do have power within its own scope, but they cannot go against the president. And they work at the pleasure of the president. The president can fire them if he or she wants to.
Yeah, I think the present cabinet members, they're all anytime in the present, they can fire, right? So example like cabinet members, they disagree any policy or like they are not really loyal service or like many policy depression or underperformance. Anytime President Donald Trump can fire them and then exchange other person. So those authority cabinet members, their department, each department we have. But they are really cabinet members oversee federal agency, right? Many federal agencies we have, they are just overseer what they really do in federal agency. Because we have so many, most jobs we do federal agency, and as well as their set of policies, all each department of policy, they oversee a policy decision making as well as they are push the policy or deny policy, as well as the managing budget. They do like managing budget, how much spending it is efficient or not, as well as they do like impose law. They can impose law and advocate their department, not limited in their department. So that's the whatever they are agreed, those our great president Donald Trump decision, they as well as they are independent, executing their duty to helping as cabinet members, so each department. I think that that is the very very clear their role to as cabinet members. Okay, and what do you think? How cabinet members influence president decisions? So, what do you think?
Well, cabinet officials are supposed to advise the president and keep them up to speed on what's going on. Now, with the president we have now, Donald Trump, he's a man who very much has his own ideas. I don't think he's one much for advice. Yeah. I think if a cabinet official told him, Mr. President, don't do this would be a bad idea, he would listen to their viewpoint, but he is the type of president who makes his own decisions. He's not one of
Yes.
those PhD types like Woodrow Wilson or Barack Obama
Mm-hmm.
or Biden, who let other people influence
Mm-hmm.
his decisions. He's a very smart guy. He reads the newspaper. He's been, around. He's been in places in this world. He knows about the world we live in. He knows about Washington. He knows about policy and politics. So I think he will listen, and he does listen to advice, but ultimately he makes his own decision. I wanted to say one more thing about Jocelyn Elders. I mentioned earlier the meanness and hyperpartisanship that began in the 80s with judges and cabinet positions. And in the 90s with the Clinton administration, that was where we started focusing on what today we call DEI. Jocelyn Elders, in my view, was a DEI pick. Clinton wanted a Black woman for the job, as if that was the most important thing. And he got a doozy and had to fire her. Yeah. And he wanted a woman to be attorney general. Again, gender is all that mattered to him. He got Janet Reno, who was a disaster, in my view. So since that time, we've had to live with DEI, and now we have a president who says we are stopping DEI and choosing people for their demographic significance, race, gender, cultural background, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity. Those things are not supposed to matter. We want the best for the job, best person for the job. We want to bring back meritocracy. So hopefully the days of the Jocelyn Elder picks are over. But if we get a Democrat administration back, we'll probably see a resurrection of DEI. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Either the former or the latter.
Yes, I think you did a great point there. And I think that each cabinet members influence the president mostly, I think, important providing advice because the president he does not know everything, right? He does not know everything about all the different department, Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, Secretary of Homeland Security, and the Secretary of Energy, as well as the Secretary of Education, Secretary of Commerce, or Secretary of Labor. Any, before or now, we have so many, secretary, so like even Ronald Reagan season, we have a Secretary of Housing, Urban, National Secretary of Advice. Little bit difference, you know, you know, department name, but all focus on their job is advice. Their number one job is advice to the president to write decision. Whatever their advice, very important because of as President Donald Trump or he administration, every part he need a right decision, right, for the people, for the people who are follow. But if he does not listen advice, so I think that is very important to providing advice and present, policy recommend and the management, government operations. So I think that is most important. Anyway, thank you. Today, I think we cover enough cabinet member stories. So thank you for your co-working contribution. And I hopefully we have a